Lemon Amiga presents a Playguide video review. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi there, welcome to another Lemon Amiga game guide and review. This time we'll be taking a look at Snow Bros, the unreleased, unofficially licensed game developed by Ocean in 1991. This game was coded by Pierre Adonais, who started his Amiga career with Iliad in 1989, and he also coded Pang in 1990. The graphics were created by Philippe Desolé and Lionel Desolé. Philippe began on beach volley in 1989 for Ocean, and they both moved on to Toki in 1991. The music was created by Raphael Guescua, who also did the music for Flashback for US Gold in 1993, and Jean Boudelot also did the music, and he worked on Dragon Ninja Future Wars and Cruise for Corpse in 1991. So great graphics, great musicians and great coders there, so let's dive on into this game and check it out. In this game we play as a character called Nick, who has been defrosted and has become a snowman. You saw in the introduction his girl has been taken away by an evil monster, and it's our job to catch up to that monster and kick his ass. To help us accomplish that, we have a number of power-ups. The red power-up is a speed power-up, the blue one gives us extra firepower, and the yellow one gives us extra range. There's also a mysterious green power-up which we shall also see later on. On the options menu we can change the mode from easy to normal. On easy that will give us 8 lives, and on normal that will give us 5 lives. And we can also change the mega joystick there, that will allow us to jump and fire using different buttons. I'll choose normal mode and normal joys for this, and let's start it up. The aim of this Bubble Bobble clone is to simply clear the screen of all enemies. That's easier said than done. We have to throw snow in their general direction, and if we hit those things 5 times they will turn into a snowball, which we can then kick and roll into the others. If we should clear all the enemies on the screen, we will then get a super bonus which we can collect at the end, and that is 10,000 points for each one. On to level 2. The aim of every level is to find that magic formula which will propel us onto that super bonus, and some levels are easier to figure out than others, but there is usually a route to completing these to ensure that that bonus is ours and that gives us the best score. Those 5 bonus tokens will only hang around for maybe 3 or 4 seconds, so it's important to get in there and collect those up as quickly as possible, and then it's on to the next level. Yes, the levels in Snow Bros can be completed in seconds, and Sometimes it does take seconds to complete the level. Sometimes with the right trick, the right formula, it can be accomplished without any further ado. There are 50 levels in this game, split over 5 worlds, and 2 doors will appear every world, and they are predetermined doors. In there you will find a predetermined free cache of extras and power-ups. They will basically give us extra lives and give us full speed and full power going on to whatever next level it may be. I will be showing you where most of the doors are on this playthrough, or at least as far as I have managed to find. So on this level you can basically take your time and climb to the top of this level. If you roll one snowball into the other, that will count as one hit, and by destroying those things with one hit we gain the super bonus. Multiple ways to gain the super bonus, but generally rolling one snowball from the very top of the level, no matter if you roll that into another snowball or not, that usually, if you hit all the enemies, will give you the big bucks. If there are frozen enemies on the screen when you roll that snowball, they will be bounced around the screen like pinball, and any stragglers may be collected using that method. And sometimes that works, and if there are defrosted snowballs, well, they won't give you the pinball effect, but what they will do is give you a bonus item. Most bonus items in this game are either useless, absolutely useless points tokens, which give maybe 100 or 200 at a time, or you may collect a power-up. Another method of gaining the big bucks is to collect the green power-up, and that will turn you into a ghost. We can float around the level completely invulnerable to platforms and enemies, and if we bag the remaining enemies by collecting one green flask, having rolled one snowball to gain that flask, then we will also gain the big bucks. On this playthrough I didn't manage to gain the big bonus tokens on every single level, so what you are seeing here is actually an alternative play where I did manage to gain the bonus. There are multiple ways to gain the bonus on every level, so if one way fails, try another. Sometimes hanging around on the level works wonders, because then you can basically let the enemy come to you, and sometimes if you group those guys all together on the same level, or just underneath each other, basically if you herd those guys into a ball, then you can tag all those together, and that's yet another way to earn the big cash bonuses. On to the next level. Level 8, we find a very difficult level indeed, and even if you know the procedure on this level, it isn't easy. It took me a long time to find a formula which worked anywhere near anything on this level, and usually, well, the formulas on this game either work completely, or if you leave one guy behind, then they fail miserably, and you do not get the big bonuses, and you just have to get rid of that guy and continue. On this level we saw 2 guys were left, and I didn't get the big bucks, but on the alternative play you saw I managed it. That will actually take us onto a bonus level where we have to roll a snowball down there as quickly as possible to bag them all, and even though I picked up the green flask there, it didn't give me any extra big bucks, but I'm sure if you bag them all straight away, that will give you the big bucks on that bonus level. But another hard level looms now, and here we have to again lure the guys. The green guys are basically the problem, so if you wait for those to start bouncing around the level, this is what I do to complete this. Let the enemy come to you, and once you accrue at least 2 guys on there, that will account for the rest. It is always a good idea to bounce one snowball off another, and then you can attack the screen from 2 directions, and any stragglers could be collected. In the meantime, here we go, this is the first boss. Every 10th level, including the last level, we will find a boss, and these vary in degrees of difficulty. The first boss is quite easy as long as we stay in this position, and if we fire snowballs at that thing, that will deplete its energy, which is not represented on screen, but that will deplete its energy fairly quickly. If we use rapid fire there, that is not auto fire, that's me jamming the fire button on this zip stick. We can dispose of that thing and collect in free extra life as well if we get into that corner and collect that. World 2 sees a change of scenery and the puzzles in this game getting slightly harder. Yes, I suppose you could call this a puzzle game, because as long as we work out the correct formula, the perfect prime route to completing these levels, then there should be absolutely no problem. If that is not the case, then these levels can be a significant problem, as we shall find out later. And collecting those big bucks there, the first one will get stuck in the scenery if you don't collect that, so you have to run over there quickly and collect them all before they disappear. This level is particularly tough, and my route to completing this level is certainly not the best route by any means, but I find if you collect all the guys all together on that platform, you can then roll a snowball into the final guy, and that reveals yet another hoard of cash plus a door. And let's check that out. The doors will hang around for maybe 10 seconds, so you do have time to pile on in there and check it out. And we see a red bale of cash there, and that will give us 50,000 plus all the 10,000, so that will give us extra lives as well. And you can see the lives are really piling up there. But some levels just take a little action, and in this case I'm just going to destroy as many enemies as I can, as quickly as I can, and get this level cleared. You can see the rapid run means I can jump and run quicker than the enemies, and that is paramount in this game. And you saw two there, but one managed to escape. If we bag the last guy with the ghost, we do not collect the big bucks because we rolled more than one snowball to complete that level. But this level 14, this must be one of the hardest in the game. You have to have the rapid run and the super snow to run up there and get to that point, and triggering that chain reaction will also give us a bonus door. And in here we'll find the usual variety of power-ups, and we find an extra life too, which will disappear, so you have to grab that quickly. You can see on the alternative player, the actual player that I managed to play on the day, this was tricky and I had to pick those guys off one by one. Survivability in this game really counts for a lot, and if we die we will lose all the power-ups that we've managed to obtain, and the extra speed is vital, and so is the extra snow really, particularly when it comes to the bosses. So if we die, then we basically throw away those power-ups and we have to find those again, so it's important to stay alive, and if we do so, then it is possible, but only just missed that guy there. It usually is possible to find a way, and sometimes you can be lucky in this game just bagging all those characters in time. Floor 16 can also be a real pain in the ass, so I like to rush in there very quickly, and when we land in that snowball, we can actually ride in that snowball, and when we jump out, we are invulnerable for maybe 2 seconds. So if you run into those bad guys and bag them within that 2 seconds, that means, well, you are free to roll that thing and hit for the bad guys. So sometimes jumping into your own snowball and riding to the bottom of the level can be helpful, and when we can jump out and become invulnerable at any point. In this case, I've kind of used that trick to clear this level, and picking up that green bottle there was certainly helpful because that meant I could clear the level easily and safely. On this one, it is important to wait until you have a few bad guys up there yet again, so you can roll them into each other, and now you can just roll them down the mountain. It's easy as that, but yes, it did take me maybe 20 tries to get this far in the game, and I had to map out these levels to memory and on paper so that I could work out the best route, and some levels just like this I could not find the correct route, and so you'll find me basically trying to survive. Let the animal come to you, which is always the best measure. And while I'm flashing, let's get the hell up there and rain power onto their heads so they disappear. On levels like this, it is very hard to get the big bonuses, and finding formulas when all you need to do is survive is very difficult in this game. So survivability. And those power-ups again, because I have the extended reach, the yellow flask, that means I can fire directly into this guy from that corner, and if any bad guys stray my way, I can simply use the super snow to get rid of those, and by hammering this fire button, that guy dies in seconds. That guy has taken me about 2 minutes before, and yes, if you don't have the super snow and the speed, you will die on that level. There's no two ways about it. So far I haven't died once, as we head into World 3. Snow Bros was originally developed by Tailplan and released to the Japanese market in 1990. The game was available as an upgrade package only to the hardware in certain arcade machines, and that ran on the 000 processor and used the Z80 chip to control the sound. Flash forward a number of months and somebody from Ocean picked this game up on an import and said this will make a great European release. They then developed the game on various platforms while in negotiation to buy the rights. Some say that the rights were not granted, some say that Ocean themselves gave up and thought the game worthless. In reality, the game was not released to the world, and well, it's a shame because these graphics are highly polished, the sound is amazing, the music is great, and I like the playability. The Pang coder there certainly has been money well spent on this game, and you can see some of the levels are very different indeed, and some require imagination to get all those guys in one go. Unlike Bubble Bobble, released in 1986 and converted to the Amiga in 1987, these levels really do move quickly. There is no long-term slow movements of this character, there is no building up of ammunition and firing that thing into a corner hoping for more points. There is more speed involved and there is more action, and that makes for a much more fun playing experience. Most things have made it from the arcade machine into this Amiga conversion, including this mini boss at the top of the screen, which if you turn one of the guys on the top row into a snowball, you can hop onto that snowball and shoot the guy and collect the 50,000 bonus he drops behind. Otherwise, you can roll the ball like this and try to get the green ghost, as you can see in the screenshot. You can get the green ghost and you can nail that guy. As you saw on the main screenshot, I rolled 2 snowballs before I got that, and therefore I didn't get the big bucks, but if you do, that reveals a door, which leads onto yet another bonus, and that accumulates score, which gives you extra lives. There are many extra lives in this game. They will be awarded at random, and you can see those flashing away there as snowman heads. They will hang around the screen for a number of seconds, and so you can collect those up. You'll also find bonus extra lives at certain score checkpoints, which are very generous indeed, and as you saw with the bosses, you can find extra lives as well. So let's just get rid of this guy. We still have the extra speed, but we do not have the extra firepower, and on this level particularly, having the extra firepower makes all the difference. Sometimes you can freeze enemies, but sometimes the enemies just kill you. When that happens, you'll find yourself slow, and you'll have to hammer that fire button extra harder because you'll no longer have any of the snow upgrades. You can no longer climb the level and get that guy either, which is particularly impossible on that level unless you get that green flask. On this level, I like to bounce around. I still have not managed to complete this level. I have no idea how you're supposed to do it. So you can see me there losing lives, and I'm actually waiting for a red bottle, and well, the green bottle came too late there. I'm waiting for a red bottle and then I can gain my extra speed, because speed is everything in this game. If you are slow like this, then you will have precious little time to get to your safe spots, and without the firepower you won't be able to combat those enemies. So descending into hell in this game is entirely possible if you fail to find the upgrades. I have found the speed and the firepower upgrade, so on this level it is particularly difficult with those guys spinning around there. They will kill you on contact and they will home in like homing missiles. Sometimes they will pass straight through, but sometimes they are deadly and they will track you all over the map. So getting rid of those blue spinning guys is a priority. If you don't, you're gonna die. There are 2 things you can do about this: either run all over the map and hope you don't get hit, or jump into a snowball and hope you are flashing when those guys approach you in a whirlwind. And that approach did not work for me, because when you are by the exit you can't really jump into the snowball, and that flashing technique will not work. But anyway, let's move on to the World 3 bosses, and these bosses are the easiest bosses in the entire game. All we need to do is to stay on the bottom of that screen in more or less this position, and as the bosses come down we can roll snowballs into those, and we can also fire our extended snow laser into them. And we are hammering that fire button there, one has already disappeared. At this stage I will collect that bonus extra life before that disappears, because sometimes when you kill the final one it doesn't give you enough time to do that. Avoid the top level or you'll get killed, and return to our safe position. Unlike the second boss, it isn't vital to have power upgrades in order to make it, and that just makes the job even easier if you have those. But these level 3 bosses are easy compared to the others, and are probably the easiest in the game. Yet on the next level we find it impossible to progress to the bonuses unless we have that extra speed and firepower and the reactions to match. You can see on the screenshot I get the Mega Ball, but on the normal play those guys are just too hard to defeat. If you let them, they will swarm all over the map, they will rise from below, they will jump at you from above, and in this stage they will also lob fire bombs from above as well, which does not help matters. If you can get the door, then that leads to more bucks and more bonuses. If you can't, well, you'll just have to ride on to the next level. Level 32 introduces us to the no way out situation. Those pits to the left and right cannot be climbed out unless we lure an enemy in there and we snowball that enemy, jump on top of that snowball and climb out like that. Otherwise we must allow the beast to come to us, and if you do that and jump at the end, remember to jump at the end. You saw I almost fell into that pit of death. You will not be able to gain the door if you fall into that pit of death, and now yes, I have done that on a number of occasions, so let's just not do that and collect those bonuses. The bonus rooms are always very welcome indeed, and it ensures that we have full everything going on to the next level, and maybe an extra life as well. You can see I'm on 26 lives, but those lives will be depleted as we enter the harder levels on this game. And lives can certainly be lost very easily in tight spots when you may not have the speed or the firepower to battle your way out. And sometimes you can just jump into those enemies and die just like that, and you can be unlucky in this game. But look at that, running under the firebomb there before it blew up. You can be tremendously lucky in this game as well. In fact, I have to say the game plays fairly throughout, just like Pang. The game has similar game mechanics there, and collision detection is absolutely spot on. In fact, they said this game was unfinished and therefore could not be released, but I think the game is absolutely finished. They only missed one bonus letter. You can collect the words SNOW on the arcade to gain an extra life, but those snow power-ups weren't included in the final game. Other than that, I'd say it's a pretty good arcade conversion. So let's just get rid of this final guy, and unlike the spinning guys, at least those fire lobbers don't seek you out like a homing missile. And certainly with these pits of death all over the map, it's important to not have those guys on your tail. Unfortunately, those are the guys that I have remaining on this level, so sometimes you can snowball them in midair and that might catch them, but I can actually escape that pit of death. And sometimes by luring those guys onto our level, we can then snowball him in. But unfortunately they are not jumping up to our level. The AI in this game is usually very slack. You can usually anticipate the enemy's movement by guiding them, and if you hang around on certain spots you can force them to jump up and make maneuvers. Unfortunately those maneuvers are the spinning maneuvers, and that means those guys are on our tail. Each level will give us 1 minute to clear the enemies, and if you don't manage to do that then a ghost will appear in the form of a pumpkin. We can shoot into that thing and that will shift its position on the screen, but eventually you can see a green ghost will appear there, and he cannot be shifted on screen by firing into him, so you have to jump up and avoid him as best as possible. If you die by the hands of those green ghosts, then they will disappear and you can hopefully complete the level. If not, then they will track you all over the map, and those green ghosts are yet again another carryover from Bubble Bowl, and it's nice to see that. unlike Super Methane Brothers and other overhyped Bubble Bobble clones you may have seen floating around. Snowballs is very playable indeed. The action is often packed, and on this level there are safe places where you simply cannot die, and you can just get rid of those enemies, collect those lives, and have fun. The difficulty curve is absolutely perfect, and every time a player plays this they will get just a little bit further and just a little bit more interested, especially if they have competitions with a number of friends. Yes, this game is easy, but it is also quite frustrating too. If you manage to get into that pit of death there and you can't snowball your way out by any other means, then you will have to endure a long, slow defeat. But as it turns out, we are waiting for those guys to jump out of that pit, and we are not suffering those defeats. So it should just be a matter of waiting for that guy to jump. There he goes, and to get him. They will thaw after a number of seconds. If you score one hit on those guys, then they will thaw almost straight away, i.e. after 1 second, and if you score 3 hits they will take 3 seconds to thaw, up to 5, which thaws them after 5 seconds because they are now in a snowball. And a complete snowball is certainly the best option because that means an enemy is frozen. Obviously they can no longer fire, they can no longer attack either. And so a snowballed or a thawing enemy is actually a harmless enemy. So sometimes it's good to score 1 or 2 hits on an enemy to render it invulnerable, and then that means you can avoid that and concentrate on the rest. But on this level I find speed of attack is the best key, and as long as you can get those without being fried, then hopefully you can be quick enough to get to those advantage points and rain fire down upon them. You may notice the firepower moves in an arc, so if you can climb onto higher levels you can rain fire down upon them in an arc. Unfortunately, if they are too close then sometimes the firepower won't hit them, and so sometimes they have to be either right on your doorstep or quite a considerable range, especially if you have the extended firepower, which I have not. Sometimes the extended range can make shooting enemies rising from above difficult to hit. But here we go, this is the 4th boss, and this is probably the 2nd easiest bosses in the game. These 2 trolls breathe fire, and if we hit those we can turn those into fire and they will eventually disappear. You'll also find enemies dropping from the top of the level, which is absolutely clear, and enemies will materialise from the top at random, and so you must fire the enemies into the green goblins whilst avoiding their fire. There is a safe spot in the top right of the screen, but to begin with I like to take on the enemies one at a time, and as long as one of those has disappeared it means the other one is very easy. By rolling balls into that thing, that will deplete its energy to a much greater rate, and firing this weedy laser into that thing isn't going to do much, so it's best to wait for the enemies to drop, and hopefully we can avoid those things enough to fire those into the enemy. And so I did not fire that thing into the enemy, it froze before it even got there. So let's return to the other guy and try and make headway there. In this safe spot you saw there I picked up the extra life, which is always in the top right hand corner if you can get there, and to my mind it is an invulnerability spot because you can simply wait for the enemies to drop and you can launch those on the boss, just like that. They will always hit on target, and some people tell me that you can pick up extra lives by doing that, but I have not found extra lives actually doing that. And so on to the next level. World 5 starts off with a bang. All these enemies will throw themselves at you, and if you lob yourself off that cliff you will actually rematerialise on top of the screen. That means you can infinitely fall from the bottom to the top, and you saw I missed the dollars there because they would have disappeared anyway, but I chose to collect the door. In here we can find extra lives, and there is actually 2 hidden lives on the very edge of the screen which you cannot see until you hear those, but that puts us up to 35 lives, which is a lot of lives and means we shall definitely be able to complete the game. On the next level I am trying to lob snowballs down there, but you saw that spot is not an invulnerability spot. If I had have done that then many enemies would have got killed because that snowball again loops the level. It will drop off the bottom and emerge on the top. So pinball on this World 5 is certainly possible. Unfortunately, World 5 is also very random, and if you don't hit the enemies on a predefined pattern, you will eventually die miserably because there are simply too many enemies on the screen, and those flying things can fly at random, so it can be difficult to hit those. So while you see me trying to hit those things and taking forever to complete this level, we are actually going to segue into the comparison zone. Ocean developed this for a number of machines, some of which you will see at the moment, and some of those you will see a little later. You can see the Amiga version there is similar to the arcade, but the 256 colour arcade cleans the floor with it. You can see an Amstrad CPC version there, which is actually a hacked homebrew job. It is not the original code. The original code has been lost for the Amstrad CPC, and the developers also created a cartridge for the advanced Amstrad known as the GX4000. That machine, basically just like the Commodore GS machine, the Commodore cartridge which was developed at the time for the Commodore GS has got lost, and we no longer have the C64 version either. The NES version came out there in 1991, and that is a faithful conversion. Well, the colour scheme is actually very, very garish, but that was as close as we ever got until the Sega Mega Drive appeared. You can see there at the bottom in 1993, the Sega Mega Drive is an excellent conversion and maybe arcade perfect. You can see the snow letters piling up there, and even the bonuses on the arcade really flood the screen. But if I show you the end level on the arcade, you can see two witches and blood spurting out of the eyeballs there. We certainly don't get to see that on the Amiga. Unfortunately, because this game was never actually released on the Amiga, we don't get to see many scores either. But the Lemon Amiga crew actually gave this 83%, which is absolutely terrific. They said it was a great conversion, and it was a shame that this thing had never been released. Well, they did release it as a public domain game on the internet, and since then it has become freeware. So although you cannot publish this game and make any money from it, you can play this online. And so the archives are available should you look hard enough. In fact, new ADFs have just been created for this, and the WHD installed version, which you can see me using at the moment, works fine. Unfortunately, this is level 46, and this level 46 is not fine. If you jump on top of those guys from above, you will simply land in the bats and die. If you don't, they will not jump out of their housings and you can't kill them. If they do, they will jump out of their housings and you will die. There are no safe places to hide, there is no easy way out. And you can see me fruitlessly waiting for an alien to leap on my head there, but instead it's trying to leap up from above, so I'll negotiate this guy and get him. Sometimes the second guy there is notoriously difficult to get out of his housing, and sometimes you can be trapped in there and it's difficult to get him out, but luckily on this playthrough I've fallen over a green potion, and that makes clearing the level a dawdle. But I have been known to waste maybe 10 lives stuck on any level. Any particular level can be any kind of problem, because as soon as you die you lose those power-ups. So in general, I say this game is a masterpiece. It's still an 8, maybe even a 9 out of 10. The playability is solid, the code is solid, it is virtually bug-free as far as I'm concerned, ignoring the problems with the ADFs, and that's basically the conversion format and not the code. So I'd say this game is rock solid. The levels can be completed quickly, and this maintains momentum and enthusiasm. Unfortunately, the levels aren't too hard, the player gets stuck, but this affects its longevity because, as you can see, a little practice means I'm now on many lives, and completing the level with this many lives should be a breeze. So many dedicated plays later, I have mastered this level, which is the final door on the game. And if anything, I would have appreciated a hard and a harder mode, just like the arcade, and a 2-player mode, which may have been in the game but may have been simply omitted due to time. A 2-player mode would have been nice as well. But what we have, Snow Bro, and as opposed to Snow Brothers, we have the one Snow Bro, and that's enough. So moving on, finally, after dying and dying many times on these brutal levels, because the difficulty level really does spike here, we get through the final level and we approach the final boss. The final bosses are difficult sometimes and relatively easy at others. They will fire enemies in our direction, but they will be ineffective on us while they are in that bubble, and if the spikes at the top of the screen pop that bubble, they will be deadly to us until we snowball them, and then they will be used as ammo against those bosses. So there is one tricky point there when those guys are free, where they will be lethal on contact, but usually it is the fire droplets which are the things to worry about. These fire droplets will kill us, and even though we have 49 lives there, it is certainly easy to trip over that fire or to get into a tight spot where you just cannot avoid either an enemy or the fire. But in general, this boss isn't too bad, it isn't too hard, and it certainly isn't too frustrating with this number of lives. In conclusion, I think Snow Bros is an easy game to master and an easy game to progress through. Not very difficult to prevent long-term play, but at the same time it certainly leaves something to be desired in the terms of longevity and difficulty of gameplay. It's great to see scores in the millions, and you can see I've scored 2.37 million there before we defeat the final boss, but we will gain 2 million for defeating the final boss, and each one of our lives will give us an extra 10,000 points. So when we total all those up at the end, they will really give us the score. So thank you for watching my Playguide video review of the Ocean Never Released classic Snow Bros, brought to you by Lemon Tube Amiga. I hope to see you again on our next review coming soon, and for now, thank you.